Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Karla and today we're going to draw some flowers together. I've had these potted chrysanthemum blooms sitting on my porch for about a month and a half now and I haven't drawn them yet. But now we're in the beginning of November and I thought it was the perfect time to finally sit down and draw them since the birth month flower for November is chrysanthemum. For this project, all you'll need is a sketching pencil, a good quality eraser, a black fine line pen like these mono pens from Tombow, and some drawing paper that will hold ink well, like a mixed media or watercolor paper. To start, grab your pencil and start sketching out a few medium-sized circles in a cluster together. I'm going to draw 3 circles to indicate where the open blooms will be and 2 smaller circles that will eventually become a smaller bud. Now inside each of the circles, add a small circle toward the center. This will indicate where the stamen of each flower will be, or where the center is. Lightly sketch in a few leaves with toothed or jagged edges, and that's all we're going to do for the rough draft. All I really want you to focus on here is laying out the basic placement of your flowers, not adding any details. We've got our draft done, so the next thing I want you to do is start filling in the center circles of each of the larger blooms with teeny little circles. Just keep layering these little circles together until the whole outline is filled in, just like I'm doing here. Let me zoom in a tiny bit on the second one here so you can see it a bit better. I'm just layering circles together until the whole stamen is filled in. I'm actually not going to do this to the top bloom that we sketched out because it's going to be at a bit of a different side angle than the first 2 blooms, so let's leave that one for now and start adding some petals. Now if you look close at a chrysanthemum, you'll notice that the petals are very narrow and the base where they connect to the body of the flower are tapered in. So all you'll need to do for these petals is focus on keeping them narrow with a rounded tip and try to keep them more narrow toward the stamen or where they connect to the flower. Petals that are closer to us have a bit of a wider tip and can be shorter to create the illusion of depth here. If you want, you can even create some petals with folds by just adding a simple line along one of the edges like I've done here. Keep layering the petals all around the stamen in layers until you have a full-looking bloom. Now for the last bloom here, I'm going to start drawing it a bit differently because I want it to be on an angle. I'm going to start with a layer of petals along the upper edge of where I sketched out the center of the bloom or the stamen. I'll draw the same shape petals here that are rounded with a tapered bottom. Now instead of following all the way around the circle, I'm going to start adding a layer of petals along the bottom of the stamen as well, facing in the same direction. I'm trying to convey that the bloom is being looked at from a bit of a different side angle, so the petals are going to appear a bit differently here. Now that these petals are drawn, I'm going to add a bit more of the tiny circles we did at the beginning for the center of the flower that you can see from this angle. Now let's add some more petals. Just imagine the bottom of each of them connecting back into the center of the bloom all the way around the stamen. Now let's add some buds in here. They're really simple to draw. Just use the same petal shapes and imagine they're covering or wrapped up around the outside of a sphere. Remember to keep the base of each petal more narrow than the top and have a bit of a curve with each to create the round shape. Let's take a look at the leaves again before we tackle them. See how the outside edges are jagged or toothed? There's a main vein that runs along the center of each leaf, and small veins that extend from the center vein to the toothed edges. To draw this, just create a curved jagged line for the edge of the leaf that tapers in at the tip, and create an almost identical line for the other side. You want to make sure you have the main center vein running down the middle of each leaf as well. I'll zoom in a bit while I do the next leaves here. Again, use a curved, jagged, or toothed line for either side of the leaf with two parallel lines running down the middle for the main center vein. Now for the final leaf, it's going to be on a bit of an angle or a side view. So instead of making both of the outer edges the same with a jagged line, the top edge of the leaf is going to be a curved line with no bumps along it, so it looks like the edge is folded under. Now the only thing left to outline are the stems, and for this we're just doing two parallel lines close together but a bit farther apart or thicker than we used for the vein line in the leaves. At this point, I'd like to come in with my eraser and erase all the excess pencil lines that you can still see. Don't overdo it with the eraser though. Rubbing too hard might cause your nice black lines to become a bit dull depending on the type of paper you're using. Once all the outlines are done, we can start adding some details to this piece, starting with the lines in the leaves. All we're going to do for this is draw several parallel lines close together to mimic the look of the veins that run down either side of the leaf. In real life, there are some more intricacies to the way the lines run on the chrysanthemum leaves, but here, to keep things simple and still achieve the overall look that we're going for with some added depth, just continue with these simple lines down each side of the leaf until the entire length is filled in. Now we can move on to adding some simple line details to the petals to create some dimension in the blooms. All you'll really want to do for this step is draw a couple of quick lines toward the base of each petal, just to help create the illusion of a shadow and a bit of depth within the flower. Keep the lines quick and light, concentrated toward the petals meet the stamen or where the petals overlap to create the look of a shadow. Take a look while I work here. I keep the lines short and light, and I'm only adding a few where I think there needs to be a little bit of depth. Don't overdo it here. Once the detail lines are done, that's it. November's birth month flower, the chrysanthemum, drawn in just a few simple steps. I hope you enjoyed watching or even drawing along with this video. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, I'd love it if you would subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of my floral-inspired drawing tutorials. And until next time, bye-bye.